The unexpected handshake. The grand hall of the Galactic Council shimmered under the soft light of 1,000 floating orbs. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy sat on curved benches made of crystal and metal, their strange faces filled with curiosity. Today was historic. For the first time, Earth had been invited to the council meeting, and standing at the center of it all was Jason Reed, Earth's first ambassador to the stars. Jason adjusted his plain black suit nervously. His heart raced. He had trained for months, studying alien cultures and protocols, but nothing could prepare him for the overwhelming presence of the council. Some delegates had glowing skin, others floated instead of walking. One alien looked like a moving waterfall of silver. Jason had to remind himself, stay calm, stay respectful. The giant golden doors at the far end of the hall swung open with a deep hum. A tall figure entered, surrounded by guards. She was beautiful in an alien way, tall, slender, with skin that shifted between soft blue and shimmering gold. Her hair floated as if underwater. She wore a long robe that seemed to be woven from stars themselves. This was Lady Xelara, the ambassador of the Xelarian people, one of the oldest and most respected races in the galaxy. Jason swallowed hard. This was the moment he had been waiting for. As Lady Xelara approached, the council fell into deep silence. Jason stepped forward carefully. His translator buzzed in his ear, whispering the formal greeting lines. He began to speak, bowing slightly. But then something inside him took over. Maybe it was human instinct, maybe it was nervousness. Instead of just bowing, Jason extended his hand toward her, offering a handshake. The entire hall gasped. Several aliens leaped to their feet. Whispers shot through the room like a crackling fire. Some looked horrified. Others appeared stunned. Jason froze, confused. Was a handshake offensive? He tried to pull his hand back, but Lady Xelara was already reaching out. Their hands touched. A jolt of energy, like soft lightning, raced between them. Jason's eyes widened. Lady Xelara's golden skin suddenly flared with bright light. Symbols appeared across her arms and neck, ancient, glowing marks that pulsed in rhythm with her heart. She staggered slightly, her eyes locking with Jason's. Jason felt something strange inside him too, a connection, a warmth he couldn't explain. For a few seconds, the world around them faded away. It was just him and her, connected by something deeper than words. The moment shattered when guards rushed forward surrounding Lady Xelara. A booming voice echoed through the hall. Violation of sacred protocol. Ritual interference. Jason was grabbed roughly by two large armored aliens. He struggled, trying to explain. I didn't know. I didn't mean anything wrong. But they weren't listening. His translator device stuttered uselessly as they dragged him away. Lady Xelara was being led in the opposite direction. But before she disappeared behind a wall of guards, she turned her head slightly. Her eyes, bright and almost teary, met Jason's again. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but the moment passed. Jason was thrown into a small, cold room. The walls were metallic and humming quietly. No windows, just a heavy door with a single blinking light. His heart pounded in his chest. What had he done? How serious was this mistake? Would Earth be punished? Would there be war? Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a small speaker in the ceiling crackled to life. Jason looked up, holding his breath. The mechanical voice spoke slowly, but clearly. You have bonded. You are now recognized as consort to Lady Xelara. Prepare for the fatherhood ceremony. Jason blinked. He must have heard it wrong. Consort? Fatherhood. That couldn't be right. He stumbled back against the wall, his mind racing. He had only shaken her hand. How could that possibly make him a consort? And fatherhood. What did that mean? Panic started to rise inside him. He wasn't ready for this. He didn't even know what he was supposed to do. Somewhere beyond the metal walls, he heard the rumble of many alien voices. The council was in chaos. Jason realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about him anymore. This would affect all of Earth's future in the galaxy, and worse, he had no idea how to fix it. An ancient law awoken. The room was too small. The air felt too heavy. Jason paced in tight circles, running his hands through his hair. The words from the speaker echoed in his mind again and again. You have bonded. You are now recognized as consort to Lady Xelara. Prepare for the fatherhood ceremony. It didn't make sense. Jason sat heavily on the cold floor, leaning his head against the wall. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe it was a joke, but deep down he knew it wasn't. The memory of the handshake burned in his skin, that pulse of strange energy, those glowing symbols, the way Lady Xelara had looked at him with wide, almost pleading eyes. Suddenly the heavy door hissed open. Jason jumped to his feet, fists clenched without thinking. 2 guards entered, their armor gleaming like wet stone. Between them walked a new figure, an alien woman with sharp bird-like features and robes that rustled with every movement. She carried a staff that crackled softly at the tip. Sit, she commanded in a voice that was not unkind, but offered no room for argument. Jason sat. The woman regarded him carefully as if studying a strange creature. Then she spoke. Her words translated through the device at Jason's ear. You have triggered the Prime Accord, Earthborn. Jason blinked. The Prime Accord? She nodded slowly. The Xelarian people are bound by ancient law. We were created through sacred design, our ancestors modified by the Makers to reproduce only through soul resonance. A single touch, a single connection can awaken the life bond. Jason shook his head in disbelief. But I didn't mean to. I didn't even know. The woman's gaze softened slightly. Intention is irrelevant. The bond is alive now. It cannot be broken. Jason swallowed. His mouth felt dry. What does it mean? For me? The woman leaned closer, her voice low. You are now the life partner of Lady Xelara. You are bound to her. Your emotions, your health, even your survival will affect hers. And most importantly, you are the father of the child she now carries. Jason's heart stopped for a second. A child? His mind reeled. He had never even dated seriously on Earth. Now he was supposed to be a father. To an alien child? The woman straightened. There is no escape from this duty. To abandon her now would doom her and the child. And by the law of the Council, the betrayal would be seen as an act of aggression by your world. Jason's hands shook slightly. I didn't choose this. I didn't want this. The woman's eyes hardened. Neither did she. The words hit Jason like a punch. He hadn't thought about that. Xelara hadn't asked for this either. She had been pulled into this mess just as much as he had. And now, her life was tied to his. The guard stepped forward. Jason tensed again, but the woman held up a hand. You are not a prisoner, she said. You are a protector, an honored consort. But there are those who will not honor the old ways, those who fear what this child represents. You must come with us, for her safety and yours. Jason hesitated. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to find a way back to Earth, to normal life. But somewhere deep inside, another feeling stirred. Something heavier than fear. A strange sense of responsibility. He nodded slowly. All right, I'll come. The woman inclined her head. Good. There is much you must learn. As they led him out into the vast corridors of the Council Fortress, Jason saw glimpses of the chaos his mistake had caused. News screens flashed images of him and Lady Xelara frozen in their glowing handshake. Alien reporters shouted questions. Military officers argued loudly in different languages. Factions were forming already, some calling for Jason's protection, others demanding his removal, even his execution. He was no longer just Jason Reed, the nervous Earth ambassador. He was now a symbol, a walking declaration that humanity was ready, or not ready, for the greater galaxy. As he moved deeper into the heart of the fortress, Jason caught sight of Lady Xelara through a clear glass wall. She sat quietly in a chair, her golden skin dimmer than before, hands resting protectively over her stomach. Her face turned slightly, and again their eyes met. This time, Jason didn't look away. He didn't know how to be a father. He didn't know how to be a protector, but somehow he knew he couldn't abandon her, whatever had been awakened between them. It was now part of him too. Hunted by the jealous and the powerful. The corridors of the Galactic fortress twisted like a maze, endless and cold. Jason moved quickly between towering walls flanked by two silent guards. He kept his head down, trying to stay invisible. But deep inside, he knew invisibility was no longer possible. His face had already been broadcast across 1,000 alien worlds. Some saw him as a hope. Many saw him as a threat. Suddenly, the lights overhead flickered. Jason glanced up. Something was wrong. Even the guards stiffened, their weapons snapping into their hands. Then, without warning, the far wall exploded inward. A shockwave of heat and dust slammed into Jason, throwing him to the ground. Through the haze he saw them, figures in dark armor, masks covering their faces, weapons humming with lethal energy. Mercenaries, bounty hunters. The lead attacker pointed directly at Jason. "Secure the Earthman. Dead or alive?" Jason scrambled back, heart pounding. The two guards with him opened fire, beams of blue light slicing the air. But the mercenaries were fast, too fast. Within seconds, one guard was down, the other fighting, desperately. Jason didn't wait to see who won. He turned and ran. His feet pounded the metal floor as alarms screamed through the fortress. Doors slammed shut around him, walls shifting as defense systems activated. Jason dashed through a narrow service tunnel, gasping for breath. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to stay alive. Behind him, footsteps echoed closer. Jason ducked into a side chamber, pressing himself against the wall. His mind raced. Why were they trying to kill him? He thought about what the alien woman had said. Some factions feared the child. If Jason died, so would Xelara's unborn baby. And that would end any chance of Earth gaining a real place in the council. Jason gritted his teeth. He wasn't ready to be a father, but he wasn't ready to be a murderer either. The door hissed open. A mercenary stepped in, weapon raised. Jason looked around wildly. No weapon. No cover. Nothing. In a desperate move, he grabbed a piece of broken pipe from the floor and swung it with all his strength. The pipe struck the mercenary's weapon, knocking it sideways. A blast of energy seared the wall beside Jason's head. The mercenary cursed in an alien language and lunged forward. Jason ducked, slamming the pipe against the attacker's knee. The mercenary stumbled, and Jason didn't wait. He sprinted through the open door, blood pounding in his ears. He could hear more voices now. More enemies coming. Turning a corner sharply, Jason nearly collided with a tall figure, cloaked and hooded. Jason raised the pipe, ready to swing again. "Wait," the figure hissed, pulling back the hood. It was the bird-like alien woman from before, the one who had explained the bond to him. "You must come with me," she said urgently. "They're everywhere." Jason hesitated only a second before following her. Together they raced down a different passage, dodging security fields and debris. Jason's lungs burned, but he pushed on. He had no choice. As they ran, the woman spoke rapidly. "The mercenaries were hired by the Rin Consortium. They seek to destroy the bloodline before it can unite Earth and Xelaria. If you fall, Earth falls." Jason stumbled slightly at her words. He was just one man, a small-town Earth boy in a cheap suit. How could the fate of two worlds rest on him? But another image filled his mind, the sight of Lady Xelara, hands cradling her unborn child, looking at him with such silent hope. Jason clenched his fists tighter around the pipe. He had to survive. He had to protect her. The woman led him into a hidden chamber. Inside, a sleek transport ship waited, engines already humming. Two Xelarian soldiers saluted Jason as he entered. It was surreal, Only days ago he had been a nobody. Now, soldiers saluted him like a leader. The ship lifted off, slipping into the fortress's emergency escape tunnels just as more explosions rocked the structure behind them. Jason slumped into a seat, breathing heavily. Across from him, the alien woman sat, her eyes serious. "You have been marked now," she said. "They will not stop. Assassins, spies, traitors, all will come for you." Jason looked down at his trembling hands. "I never asked for any of this." She nodded solemnly. "Neither did destiny. But now it is yours." The ship broke into open space, stars swirling outside the windows. Jason leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. He knew one thing for sure. Running was over. Hiding was over. If the galaxy wanted a fight over his child, they were going to get one, and Jason Reed wasn't planning to lose. Alien feelings are dangerous. The escape ship drifted silently through a hidden path in the asteroid belt, its engines powered down to avoid detection. Inside the small cabin, the air was heavy, not from the pressure of space, but from something far more personal, far more fragile. Jason sat across from Lady Xelara, the alien ambassador who now, by some impossible fate, carried a life that tied them together forever. For a long time, neither spoke. Jason watched her carefully, unsure what to say. Her skin, once shimmering gold, now glowed faintly with a soft, pale light. She looked weaker than before, her movements slower, more careful. He finally broke the silence. "Are you all right?" Xelara lifted her eyes to meet his, and for a moment, Jason forgot how different they were. There was no alienness in that look, only pain and something else he couldn't name. "I can feel your heart, Jason Reed," she said quietly. Her voice, always melodic, now trembled slightly. Every beat, every fear, every doubt, it echoes inside me. Jason stared, stunned. He had known there was a bond, but he hadn't understood how deep it ran. Xelara pressed a slender hand against her chest, where faint patterns of light moved beneath her skin. "When you are afraid, I grow weak. When you feel anger, my body burns. If you despair, I wither." Jason swallowed hard, guilt twisting in his stomach. He hadn't asked for this. He hadn't meant to pull her into his fear, his confusion, but his emotions were hurting her. And the child. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I know," she said softly. "None of this was your choice. But now, my life, and the life I carry, depend on you." Jason leaned forward, his hands clenched tightly. "I'll learn," he said fiercely. "I'll get better. I swear it." For the first time, a small smile touched Xelara's lips, brief, flickering like a candle in the wind. Outside the ship, stars wheeled silently. But inside, the distance between two very different beings began to shrink. Suddenly, the ship rocked violently. Jason jumped to his feet, instinctively shielding Xelara. "What was that?" The pilot's voice came through the speaker, tense. "Unidentified. Ship approaching fast. They're locking weapons." Jason's heart hammered in his chest. He turned to Xelara, who was already trying to stand but swayed dangerously. He caught her before she could fall. Her hands clutched his jacket, her forehead resting lightly against his chest. Through the bond, Jason felt her fear and her trust. "You must stay calm," she whispered. "For me." Jason nodded, pushing the fear down with sheer force of will. He helped her back into her seat and strapped her in. "Get us out of here," Jason barked into the comms. The small ship jolted as it fired its emergency boosters, weaving between the massive rocks of the asteroid field. Blasts of plasma fire flashed past the windows, each one close enough to make Jason's stomach drop. The enemy ship was bigger, faster, and better armed. Jason looked at Xelara. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. Every time he felt fear, it dragged her closer to collapse. He had to change. Gritting his teeth, Jason forced himself to breathe. Slowly, evenly, he pushed away the terror and focused on one thought only. Protect her. Not for politics. Not for Earth. Just for her. Slowly, incredibly, he felt something shift. Xelara's breathing steadied. Her skin brightened. A little stronger. A little more alive. Jason turned back to the window, jaw set. They weren't going to die here. The pilot shouted, "Brace yourselves!" The ship plunged into a dense asteroid cloud, weaving through chunks of rock the size of mountains. Jason tightened his grip on the seat, holding Xelara's hand firmly. A deafening crack shook the cabin. Lights flickered. But when the stars cleared, the enemy ship was gone, either crushed by the asteroids or forced to retreat. The little escape ship floated on, damaged but alive. Jason released a long, shaky breath. Xelara opened her eyes again and gave him a look full of silent gratitude. "You saved us," she whispered. Jason shook his head. "We saved each other." For the first time since the handshake that changed everything, Jason didn't feel like a prisoner of fate. He felt like a partner, a protector, maybe even something more. Outside, the stars sang their ancient songs. Inside, two hearts beat, as one, fragile and strong. And somewhere, in the center of that fragile bond, a new life stirred. A life that would change the galaxy forever. The betrayal. The escape ship limped through the stars, its engines damaged, but holding together. Jason sat by Xelara's side, never letting go of her hand. Her color was slowly returning, but she was still fragile, still too deeply tied to his emotions. Every moment, Jason fought to keep himself calm and steady. Not for himself. For her. The pilot, a stocky alien with scarred skin and sharp yellow eyes, finally spoke through the comms. "We're approaching a safe zone, a neutral port. No one will find you there." Jason exhaled in relief. For the first time in hours, it felt like they might actually survive this nightmare. The ship docked with a quiet thud against a massive space station. From the outside, it looked abandoned, an old trading hub orbiting a dead planet. But inside, lights flickered, and faint signs of life moved in the shadows. The pilot led them through dark, winding halls. Jason kept close to Xelara, feeling the tension in the air. Something was wrong, but he couldn't place it. Finally, they entered a small chamber where a single table sat under a flickering overhead light. A group of rough-looking aliens waited there, hard eyes, worn armor, hands resting too close to weapons. The pilot turned to Jason and Xelara with a cold smile. "This is where we part ways," he said. Jason stiffened. "You said this was a safe place." The pilot shrugged. "It is, safe for those who pay the right price." Jason's stomach dropped. He grabbed Xelara protectively, stepping back. The leader of the waiting group stood, his voice like grinding metal. "The Earthman and his precious cargo will fetch a fine reward, dead or alive." The betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Jason's mind raced. They were trapped, outnumbered, outgunned. Xelara was too weak to fight. And he was just a human with no weapon, no plan, and a fierce determination not to lose. Jason didn't hesitate. He grabbed a broken chair leg from the floor and stood in front of Xelara, teeth bared. "You'll have to go through me first." The aliens laughed, cruel and mocking. Jason didn't care. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to give Xelara a chance, to give their child a future. The first mercenary lunged. Jason swung wildly, connecting with a sickening crack. Pain shot up his arm, but he didn't let go. Another attacker charged. Jason ducked under the blow, slamming the chair leg into the alien's knee. But there were too many. A heavy fist caught Jason across the face, sending him sprawling. Blood filled his mouth. He tried to stand, but boots kicked him down again. Through the haze, he saw Xelara struggling to rise, her body glowing faintly as she reached for him. The lead mercenary raised his weapon, aiming straight at Jason's head, and then chaos erupted. Blinding flashes of light filled the chamber. Alien soldiers clad in shimmering silver armor, stormed in through hidden doors, weapons firing with deadly precision. The mercenaries barely had time to react before they were overwhelmed. Jason shielded Xelara as the firefight raged around them. He felt strong arms lifting him, dragging him and Xelara away from the slaughter. When the noise finally died, Jason looked up into a familiar face, the bird-like alien woman who had first explained the bond to him. "You thought we would leave you alone," she said sharply. "You are too important." Jason wiped blood from his mouth, helping Xelara to stand. "I trusted the wrong people," he said bitterly. The woman's expression softened. "You are learning. Trust must be earned, not given freely, especially here." Jason nodded grimly. His body ached, his spirit even more so. But somewhere inside, he felt something new, a spark of iron, a stubborn refusal to give in. The woman led them to a new transport, a sleeker, faster ship hidden beneath the station. As they boarded, Jason noticed Xelara watching him quietly, her golden eyes reflecting sadness and pride. She spoke softly just for him to hear. "You fought for me. You didn't run." Jason squeezed her hand gently. "I'll never run from you." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Jason realized the truth. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was loyalty. This was love growing in the cracks of fear, and from now on, no betrayal, no army, no galaxy could tear them apart. Fatherhood by fire, the world around Jason blurred into chaos. Red banners whipped in the artificial wind, alien voices roared from thousands of stands, and the scent of metal and burning ozone filled the air. He stood in the center of the grand arena of Velos, a place where only two outcomes existed: glory or death. Above him, high in the council's protected balcony, sat the leaders of dozens of worlds watching the human, the mistake, the outsider who had dared to bond with one of their sacred daughters. Jason tightened the makeshift armor strapped to his chest. It wasn't much, thin plating scavenged from what the Xelarian loyalists could find. In his hands he held a battered energy spear, its tip flickering weakly. Across the arena, massive gates groaned open. A voice boomed from the loudspeakers, translated for all species present. Champion of Earth Jason Reed, accused of unauthorized bonding and threatening galactic stability, faces trial by combat. Should he fall, the bond shall be severed and the child annulled. The crowd roared, some with excitement, others with hate. Jason's heart pounded, not from fear of dying, but from the knowledge that Xelara was watching. Somewhere beyond the gates of the arena, she lay hidden, weakened and vulnerable, her life thread tied to his. If he died, she would too. If he gave up, the tiny life growing inside her would vanish before it ever had a chance. The gates across, the sand snapped fully open. From the shadows, the first challenger emerged, a towering beast of living rock, its body studded with spikes, eyes burning like coals. Jason felt fear claw at his chest. Stay calm. Stay steady. For her. He shifted his grip on the spear and advanced. The beast charged, each footstep shaking the ground. Jason dodged left at the last second, the creature's massive fists smashing into the dirt where he had stood. Dust clouded the air. Jason moved fast, striking at the creature's legs, aiming for weak joints between slabs of stone. The spear cracked but held. The beast roared in frustration. Jason ducked under another blow, feeling the air ripple past his head. He slashed again, death by 1,000 cuts. It wasn't strength that would win this fight. It was stubbornness. It was survival. Finally, with a bellow that shook the stands, the creature collapsed, its legs shattered. The crowd went silent for a moment. Then a mixture of boos and reluctant applause rumbled across the arena. Jason dropped to one knee, panting, sweat stinging his eyes, but it wasn't over. A second gate opened. This time, 2 attackers emerged. One a snake-like assassin coiling across the sand with gleaming blades in both hands, the other a brute covered in cybernetic implants, steam hissing from vents along his shoulders. Jason forced himself to stand. Pain lanced through his side where the beast had clipped him earlier. His body screamed for rest, for mercy. But in his mind he saw Xelara's face. Her soft voice whispered across the bond. "Jason, I'm with you." Strength flared through him. The snake struck first, moving faster than Jason's eyes could follow. Jason barely dodged, feeling the blade slice a shallow cut across his shoulder. He countered by throwing a handful of sand into the assassin's face, buying precious seconds. The brute roared and charged. Jason sidestepped, letting the two enemies collide with each other, using their own momentum against them. Before the snake could recover, Jason rammed the broken shaft of his spear into the creature's midsection, sending it sprawling. The brute swung wildly. Jason ducked, rolled, and drove a scavenged energy knife into the crack of its cybernetic spine. Sparks exploded. The brute fell. The arena thundered with noise. This time, it wasn't just hate. There was awe now. Shock. Maybe even a little respect. Bloodied, bruised, but alive, Jason stood tall. The arena announcer's voice returned, louder this time. "Enough. Jason Reed, champion of Earth, by strength, by will, and by unbreakable spirit, you have earned your right. The bond stands. The child lives." The massive screens overhead flashed with Jason's image, battered but defiant, standing under the blazing alien suns. Far away, hidden from view, Lady Xelara smiled weakly through tears. She had felt every moment, every fear, every triumph through the bond. And in that moment she knew. Jason wasn't just a human. He was her protector, her consort, her love. Jason looked up at the council seats, his voice strong. "I didn't ask for this bond," he called out. "But now that I have it, I will protect it with everything I am. If you come for my family, you will answer to me." The crowd erupted into a storm of noise. Jason dropped his bloodied weapon and turned away from the broken arena floor, walking toward the tunnels. He wasn't the same man who had entered this world. He was a father now. And fathers did not fall easily. A human father in an alien world. The stars outside the window shimmered like diamonds scattered across black velvet. In the quiet chamber deep within the Galactic sanctuary, Jason Reed stood silently, watching over Lady Xelara as she lay on a soft glowing bed, her golden skin flickering gently with life. He barely noticed the group of alien healers moving around her, whispering in ancient tongues, weaving energy and medicine together to help her through the most important moment of her life and his. Jason's heart raced with a different kind of fear now. Not fear for his life, not fear of enemies, but fear of the unknown. Fear of failing the ones who needed him most. Suddenly, Xelara gasped, her body trembling. The head healer looked at Jason and gave a small nod. "It is time," she said simply. Jason moved to Xelara's side without hesitation. He gripped her hand, tightly, feeling her pain ripple through their bond. It was overwhelming, raw, pure, and yet she clung to him, drawing strength from him, trusting him completely. "I'm here," Jason whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm not going anywhere." Tears glistened in Xelara's bright eyes. Her hand tightened around his. Minutes stretched into what felt like eternity. Jason could do nothing but stand there, feeling every wave of pain and hope crash through him. And then, a cry, a sound so small, yet so powerful, it seemed to shake the very stars. Jason blinked through tears he hadn't realized were falling. One of the healers gently lifted a tiny form wrapped in a silver-blue cloth, glowing faintly in the dim light. "Your daughter," the healer said, offering the child to Jason. Hands trembling, Jason reached out and cradled the newborn against his chest. She was small, warm, and beautiful beyond anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered between golden and human tones. Her tiny fingers curled instinctively around his. Jason looked at Xelara, who smiled weakly, her face radiant with exhausted joy. "She's perfect," Jason whispered. Xelara nodded slowly. "She is ours." Jason sat carefully beside her, placing their daughter in Xelara's arms. Together they gazed down at the new life they had created. born not just from ancient laws or cosmic accidents, but from something deeper, from trust, from struggle, from love. For a few precious moments, the galaxy outside faded away. No councils, no politics, no enemies. Just the three of them, together in a small, quiet corner of eternity. But peace, Jason knew, would not come easily. Already word was spreading across the galaxy. The first true union of human and Xelarian blood. A symbol of change, of hope. And of danger. Enemies would come. Allies would come too. But Jason no longer feared them. He was no longer just a messenger from Earth. He was no longer just an accidental consort. He was a father. He was a protector, and he would fight for his family no matter what it cost. The healers gave them privacy as the child drifted into peaceful sleep. Solara leaned her head against Jason's shoulder, her voice soft. "What shall we name her?" Jason thought for a moment, looking out at the stars. "Hope," he said finally. "Because she's a bridge between two worlds. Because no matter how dark things get, she'll be our light." Solara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Hope," she whispered, kissing the baby's forehead. Jason wrapped his arms around them both, holding them close. Far above, in the council chambers, debates raged. Policies were written, alliances were broken, and enemies plotted in the shadows. But in that quiet room, under the eternal light of distant suns, one small family found its beginning. And Jason Reed, human father in an alien world, knew one thing, with absolute certainty. Whatever battles lay ahead, whatever storms would come, he would never, ever let them fall. The galaxy had no idea what it had awakened. But soon, it would learn. A father's love is the most unstoppable force of all.